Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to begin by acknowledging Ms. Kimberly Glass of Lockport, New York. It's always encouraging to have a fellow Western New Yorker among us. Kimberly was a 10-year veteran of Capitol Hill and worked for my predecessor, John LaFalce, and continues to work on behalf of American workers, businesses, keeping jobs here in the United States where they belong. So thank you, Kimberly. I think that the United States has to be tougher on China. But I think more importantly, the United States has to be tougher we have to be tougher on ourselves about China. It's no longer a competition about toys and t-shirts and tennis shoes. It's about China's ambition to become a global technological superpower sometime this century as part of the Made in China 2025 and Belt and Road Initiative. Clearly, China is investing in the growth and diversity of its economy to compete on a global scale. We need to do the same. So to do that, China seeks to lead the world in production of artificial intelligence, green energy, aerospace, engineering, manufacturing, 5G, and robotics. The list goes on. They're aggressively expanding overseas in infrastructure to move their goods and services to foreign markets. All the while, they take U.S. intellectual property, deny American firms access to their markets, and subsidize their favored industries to create gluts of global oversupply that harm American businesses and workers. I proudly represent 1,300 employees and steelworkers at the Sumitomo tire plant located in Tonawanda, New York. That facility has been in continuous operation since 1920. On 2 occasions, I've testified before the U.S. International Trade Commission to protect their jobs, mostly from tires unfairly dumped and subsidized by the Chinese government. I believe that the United States has an obligation to protect our nation's manufacturers and workers from unfair trade practices. We must be proactive against the Chinese government's abuses of trade law and human rights. So, Mr. Hausman, can you expand on the threat posed to American manufacturing by Chinese plants being built in other countries and how they take advantage of existing law and enforcement loopholes to undercut American businesses and workers?
Yes, sure. I think this is a key piece here is that, our union is using our trade enforcement laws and spending significant resources to defend, workers like those that are in in Sumitomo plant. And this is, and as we continue to do this expansion of tariff regime on these tires, we've had to do it because, in part, we've seen this growth and dramatic expansion of tire capacity by multinationals and Chinese-based companies into third-party countries that are then exporting into the domestic market at below market rates and subsidized. And so, our concern, and mentioned earlier in the testimony here, is this idea that, China is now expanding into GSP beneficiary countries with significant subsidization and providing resources to build plants that will be an export model into the U.S. market. And so really it is a question is, should our general systems preference program, or should we provide tariff cuts to third-party countries that are providing significant resources to Chinese firms to build into their facility? Like Serbia provided tax abatements and provided resized their, they reformatted their industrial land policy to help build the plant, and now are turning a blind eye to forced labor conditions by Chinese workers on Vietnamese transplants. And so I think, this is an opportunity to really reassess how we approach things. And this is why we have to be very diligent in our trade policy and support, additional AD/CVD enforcement laws, but also look at how our development policy works so that it works for all working people and ensures that U.S. workers are the primary beneficiary of any trade enforcement.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, thank you for your leadership, and I yield back.